everybody, my name is Heather. Welcome back. Today I'm going to do part 2 of this little video series on how to extend the spine of a junk journal. So just as a recap on the first video, if you haven't seen that, you probably want to check that out first because we kind of created this here. And what we did was we just took an old book, which was originally a 1-inch spine of a book, and then we extended it out to create a 1.5-inch spine. So now it's a little bit larger and it can house more pages and like ephemera inside. All the things that kind of go along with making a junk journal. So yeah, so that is what we did. So I'll just sort of go through really quickly, just to refresh your mind. So we found you need to find yourself a book, which this one was mine. And then you need to gather yourself some fabrics and trims and figure out, you know, how you want to arrange your book to look. So I chose, you know, obviously this book here, and then I picked out this lace and this velvet to go on it. So you can make it as elaborate or as simple as you like. And then we removed the pages from this book. So I showed you how to do that in part 1. We measured and figured out how big, you know, you want your new spine to be. So you sort of have to think about how many signatures, how many pages, how big you want it to be. I just knew that I wanted it to be a little bit bigger. So, and I just liked the look of that as well. So that was kind of what determined my width. What else did we do? We cut the new spine out of cardboard or chipboard, and then we have another piece ready to go for whenever we bind the signatures in. We removed the back cover from the front section, and then we glued in the new spine, and then we covered everything with fabric, and the fabric was actually what holds everything together. And then the last time I saw you, I wasn't quite sure what I was going to do with the inside. So I did go ahead and decorate that since then. And all I did was I covered the front and the back with paper, and I added a little pocket over here so that I can tuck some things in there. And then I came in and I glued down this fabric here, and you can see that the glue is really noticeable on this fabric because it's super thin. So but we're going to be covering that up like with another piece of fabric. So I liked that this had just like that rough edge, so I went ahead and left that alone. And I know some of you guys left me comments about that marbled paper that was on the inside, and I totally know what you mean. Like, it was beautiful, but it really wasn't my style. So I just wanted it to be, because this is going to be my journal, so I wanted it to be sort of reflective of what I had in my mind, you know, for my journal. So yes, I totally get that it was beautiful. And because the front cover has the marble, I felt like I still got that look, you know, with this whole journal. So I'm happy with that. What else? Okay, so today we're going to do the signatures. And what we need to do is the second piece that I told you to cut out, which is the same exact size as your spine. You want to get that out. Okay, so we have that. And then another thing that I did different since the last time I saw you or talked to you was I changed my signatures from 2 to 3. So originally I was going to do 2, and now I've decided to do 3. And the reason is because whenever I was thinking about this, if I would go in and put the 2 signatures in here, I realized how much extra space would be left in the front and the back or the middle. Like, if I couldn't really space the 2 out enough that it covered enough of that spine to look good to me. So that was why I decided I actually did keep pretty much the same amount of pages, except for I just came in with 3 so that I could evenly space the pages out over the signatures. So yeah, so that's what I did. And I'll just walk you through really quickly my signatures in case you're interested. So for the first one, so we're going to be using a ribbon binding method for this. And when you do that, when you put your signatures in, you kind of want to make sure that your pages are, what's a good one? Let me show you on this one because I feel like this is a good example. You kind of want to make sure your pages are either all the way to the bottom or all the way to the top of your signature. So if you have some shorter pages, so like for example, this page here is shorter, so I brought it all the way down. This page here is shorter, I brought it to the top. This page is a full length page, so you don't have to worry about it. Same with those. But yeah, if you have any shorter ones, you want to make sure you bring them either to the top or the bottom. Don't put them in the middle. And the reason is because with the ribbon binding that I use, you only put holes here and here. So you definitely want your ribbon to pass through at least one of the holes on your papers. You need to have it grab somewhere. So if you have it in the middle, and I can show you later too how you can go back and like add even shorter pages in the middle without even putting it through the ribbon, but for now, just that's my little tip about it. Okay, whoops. All right, so this is my first signature, and I just put some pretty embossed paper. I put some fabric here so that it would connect to the back. Some old book pages, which I did reinforce with washi tape, and then just some pretty tea-dyed paper. This is some really beautiful hand-dyed paper from Paper Art by Alessandra, and I will link her shop. She has beautiful papers. And some tea-dyed paper. This is more paper from Alessandra. And then this is the center, which is a French printable. This is going to be coming to my shop soon. I already actually have my holes here because I wanted to show you what I meant about, like, when you come down through, this is where your holes are going to be. So you definitely want to make sure that you bring your papers, your shorter papers, either up or down to make sure you're catching into one of those holes. Okay? So, and then just get yourself some clips because you want to make sure your pages are clipped whenever you get ready to put your signatures in. And I'm going to use this ribbon for this signature. So let's see, I'll show you this one. So for this one, I just took 2 old envelopes and I bound them together with some washi tape, and that's how I created that page. And like I said, that's a good example because if you see the hole here, it doesn't catch on this one. So you have to make sure it catches on this one. Okay? So then I have that, some beautiful handmade paper by Heather of Rose Hill Paper Cottage. I will make sure I link her. Some book pages. Again, I reinforced with washi tape. Any of the pages that were a little bit fragile, I reinforced. This is some of Alessandra's paper. And then this is just a pretty printable of a book page. I love this little couple here. It's so pretty. This is going to be coming to my shop also. It's not there yet. So let's see. That's the second signature. And then this is the third signature. And if you remember from the first video, I was going to use this as one of my end pages in the journal, but I ended up putting it into my pages, and I just made it a little flip out with washi tape. And then this page, some pretty French. This is also going to be coming to my shop. Ledger paper, and then this is also a printable coming to my shop. So I kind of was using some things that I feel like inspired by right now. So yeah, and then this is going to be my ribbon. Okay, so for the ribbon that you want to choose, I just like to use sari silk, or for this signature I'm going to use some seam binding. But if you have sari silk that is like kind of wide like mine, because usually it's kind of wider, what I like to do is I just take my scissors and I put a little snip there and I rip it just to get it so that it's thinner, because you don't really want like super thick ribbon going through your pages. You kind of want it to be, you know, a little bit thinner. So that will be the perfect width for going through the signatures. Just need to take some of that extra thread off. So yeah, so that's gonna be the ribbon that I'm gonna use for this one. Okay, so the next step is we are going to prepare our spine that we're gonna, so eventually we're gonna bind all of these pages to this little piece of cardboard. And then once everything is bound to the cardboard, we are gonna glue that into the book. Okay, so the first thing we need is a pen and a ruler. And the measurements that I used, so if you are gonna do a 1.5 inch spine, these measurements work really good for 3 signatures. If you have a different size, all you want to do is really just come in about 1/4 inch from your edge. And let's see here. I want to make sure I have a straight. Okay, you're going to want to come in maybe like about 1/4 inch from your edge, and then space your signatures out like evenly throughout your, that would be my tip. That's kind of what I did, was I came in 1/4 inch and I came in 1/4 inch, and then I went in the middle of that to do my 3 lines. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to measure over. So basically the gist of what I'm trying to say is you have to evenly space out however many signatures you have across your spine. So for this one, I'm coming in 1/4 inch. I'm going to put a dot. Why isn't my pen working? Okay. And then I'm going to come over to 1/4 inch, and then 3/4 inch, and then 1 1/4 inch. So those are going to be my measurements for my lines. And this pen is not working. There. Okay. So I'm going to put those there, and then I'm just going to come up a little ways and do it again. I'm going to do it 3 times so that way I can connect the dots and kind of have a straightish line. So 3/4 inch, and then 1 1/4 inch. And then up here we're going to do the same thing. 1/4, 3/4, and then 1 1/4. All right, so once you have your dots set, just take your ruler and then connect them so that you can draw a straight line. So this is just going to give you a guide so that when you go to put your signatures in, you're putting them in straight, not crooked. So like I messed up there, but it doesn't matter because this is all going to get covered up. And you just basically are trying to give yourself a straight edge so that you can line up your papers properly when you go to put in your signature. Because I've done this before without doing this, and like what I did was I ended up putting my signature crooked. Like I put it in like this. So at least this way I know I have a line that I can kind of guide me. So then the way that you're going to figure out where your ribbon is going to go through. So, okay, so this is the middle signature here. I'm going to put this one here. So what you want to do is you want to get your awl tool. You want to have your papers nice and clipped into your signature. Use your fingernails and just kind of push in here and to make sure your papers are all right exactly where you want them and how you want them to lay as you turn the pages. Like I said, you want your little ones down here, whatever. Okay, so then you take your awl, and I usually come down about 1 inch. I never measure, but you can. So let me see. Let me see what that measures. Yeah, it's about 1 inch, maybe a little over. You're just going to take your awl, come into the crease of your papers, and you are just going to push your awl through that crease and let it come out the other side to create your hole. So that's all you're going to do, is just to make a hole like that. And then do the same thing down here. Come up about an inch, push your awl through the papers, let it come out the other end, and that is going to be your hole. Okay? So now we have a hole here and a hole here. And then we're going to take those and we're going to thread some ribbon through those and attach it. Okay, so the first thing we have to do before we cover with fabric is we have to mark where these signatures are going to go. So I just showed you how to put the holes into this signature. And then what you want to do is get your pen. And I know this signature is going to be my middle signature. So line up your pages so that they fit inside of your spine. So like you don't want it up here or down here, you know, you want it to be in the middle. Line your page up just like that. Press down with your fingers and look to see where your holes are, okay? So, and then line your signature right with the line that you know that's where your signature is going. And then I just come over with my pen and I put a nice big mark there to show right where my hole is on my papers. Okay? So I do that. So that way I know that I need to punch a hole here and I need to punch a hole here for my signature to pass through with the ribbon. So that's where it's going to fall on that particular signature. And they're all going to be similar, but they're going to be slightly different. So I know this is going to be my third signature, and my hole is here, and my hole is here. So I line it up so that, you know, it falls pretty evenly between the top and bottom. And then I mark right where I can see my hole there. I mark there. And yeah, so like this one is a little bit down farther than this one. So yeah, but it's not going to matter. So once it's, you know, once it's in there, it really doesn't matter. And then on this one, I know that this is going to be my first signature. So see, this one is a little bit harder to see for me, but I'm gonna take and line it right here and right here. Like that. Okay, so that's how I know where to put my holes that I'm about to punch a hole through. So just, like I said, the point is just line up your holes, and by doing it like that, it allows you to put your holes wherever you kind of want them on that signature without having them to be exactly the same on each signature. So just like a kind of like a lazy shortcut for me. So then I just come in with my crocodile. And you don't have to use this. If you don't have a crocodile, you could use your awl tool and just poke through that way, okay? So then I'm going to just punch out little holes on the little hole setting everywhere that I put a hole in that. Like that. I hope I'm making sense and I'm not like confusing you guys. Okay. So now we have our holes, which is perfect. Okay guys, so I am going to insert this part into the video because I made a mistake and I went too far with it and I couldn't come back and fix it. So I'm just going to redo this little part here with a different piece of fabric and show you the steps that you have to do. I'm just going to insert it into the video so that way I'm explaining myself correctly, because after I had glued my fabric onto my spine, I realized that I told you some wrong information and it would have confused you. So I just want to make sure I clarify. So this fabric is different than what you're going to see go into the book, because I'm inserting this little section here into the video. So once you have your lines all done and you have your holes punched in, then you are going to just take your fabric and you're going to glue it right over top of that, all right? So just get your glue and, you know, make sure your fabric is nice and adhered, just like everything else in this process. Get your fabric and glue it right on top. You want to make sure that you're covering the top part of the spine enough so that it doesn't show, you know, and then the same on the bottom. So just cover that up, okay? So once you have that glued in place, then you're going to flip it over and you'll see right where your holes are that you punched for your signatures, okay? So then get your awl tool and just poke through each one of those holes through the fabric. And I like to come and do it from the front as well, just to give a nice hole so that I know that's where that is. And then do the same here on all of your holes. Whoops, that's not a hole, sorry. And then here, here, and here. Okay, so those are where your signatures are going to get, you know, threaded into place. So that is how you prepare the spine, because then the next step you're going to see is where we are going to put the signatures right into place on our spine. Okay, so that is how you do that part. And like I said, you'll notice that this fabric is different because I'm inserting this into the video. I'm going to show you on one of the signatures how to put it in, and then I'll speed up the camera so I don't bore you putting the rest in. So get your signature, and we've already put our holes in like I showed you. There's one here and there's one here. And then you're going to get your ribbon. And what I like to do is I like to cut my ribbon at a point, like a nice clean point, okay? And then just line it up with your hole. Get your awl tool and thread it through so that it comes out this way, all right? And then what you're going to do is you're going to find the hole that you know this needs to go to. So I know that that needs to go there, and just get your awl and thread it through there. Okay, so I want to explain this part a little bit better. So ordinarily, if you were doing this ribbon binding and it was like, let's just say this was the actual spine of a book, you could thread your ribbon right out to the spine and then come in, take your ribbon here, push it through there, and get the other end and tie a bow, and that would be like your binding. But because we need our ribbon to lay completely flat on the back of this, you don't want to tie it here. You want to make sure you tie it on the inside, because if you tie it here and you tie each signature here, then every time you put it in your, or when you go to put it in your book, it's going to glue in with a bump. So there'll be 3 bumps along your signature, and you do not want that with this method. So you just need to make sure that you bring this ribbon back up through this hole down here and don't tie on the back. Okay? So that's my little tip, and I learned that the hard way because I did it that way, and I had to redo it all because it was just like this big like lump across the inside of the book. So once you have it here, okay, this is where the problem area is of this method. So it gets a little bit tricky here. So you have it, you pulled it through here, through your spine, out the bottom, across the bottom, up through, and now we need to get this ribbon back through our signature. And so I have many times taken my ribbon and used my awl and just pushed through. And it works fine, but you have to fiddle with that a little tiny bit because it's harder to go this way through your signature than it is to go this way through your signature. So I'm also going to show you that if you have a really large needle, I don't even know what kind of needle this is. I'm not a sewer, so I'm not real sure. It's like maybe a tapestry needle or something. And just get your ribbon, cut it off at a nice angle, and thread it through your, oh my gosh, I can't thread needles very well. Okay, thread it through that big needle like that, and then take it and put it through the signature, okay? And that way it gives you a little bit of an easier time getting it back through your signature. And I know, like, so I've had other people leave comments about on my other videos where I've done this ribbon binding, and they'll say, like, it would be easier if you used a needle and thread your ribbon through it. And it is easier. But, like, if you're not a sewer, you typically don't have these types of needles laying around your house. You would have to specifically go out to buy it. So, you know, so I was just trying to show, like, okay, you can do this without any needles or thread. Because if you're not a sewer, you don't have needles and thread in your house. You know what I mean? So anyways, you don't need this. You can use your awl tool and do the same thing that I showed you here and just kind of feed it back through. It's just going to give you a little bit of a harder time going back in. Okay? So I just wanted to explain that pretty clearly so that you didn't ruin your book, you know? All right, so once you get your ribbons through, you just want to kind of pull them through so they're nice and adhered to your new spine. And all I do is tie a bow. And I love the bows in the signatures, so I just usually tie a bow and that's it. And I call it a day. And then take my clips off, and that is my signature, which is now, you know, put into my new spine. And then I'm going to go over and add 2 more signatures, but eventually this is going to be in, it's going to be glued into the book like that. Okay? So I don't know, somehow I got that a little bit uneven, but no, that's right. Okay. Yeah. So I will go ahead and finish the others, and then I'll show you how I glue that in, and then we'll be done. Okay, so I have all of my signatures put into the spine, and you can see that the ribbons are all nice and flat across the back. There's no bumps, like I said. And this is I love the bows in the middle. So yeah, so I showed you, you know, how you can push through with the awl tool, and then also, like I said, if you want to go get one of these needles, it will probably help you a lot in this, especially with this particular one, because you have to come back up through that hole down there. but you don't need it. You can use your awl if you don't have it. So just FYI about that. And then, yeah, so here's our pages. Super excited. So now all we have to do is take this and glue it right into our spine, and then we will be ready to go, and it'll be all done. So I'm just going to go ahead and get my glue. And when we do this part, like, it's a little bit easy to get confused by the fabric and sort of place it wherever, but you really want to make sure that you're lining up your spines together. So you want to make sure those are together, because if you happen to glue over too far, your book won't close. So you really got to make sure that you do that. So just get your glue, and again, using the Fabri-Tac glue, and just cover that spine completely good on the ribbon, everywhere. My glue's kind of not coming out very good, but just get lots of glue because you want this to hold really, really securely. And get yourself on every edge. Just like that. And then just come in very carefully and line up the side, making sure that you have the top and bottom even, and then the side even, and come over and press down. It's really easy on this part to make your spine a little bit crooked, so be careful about that. And then the way that you can press down is find your center of your signature and go in with your fingers and just get in there really, really good. And just press, press, press. And then keep doing that maybe a few times just to get it super, super adhered. Come on the bottom with your finger and just run over every part of that spine that you just put in. And like I said, make sure you're straight. Make sure your pages are falling straight, because you don't want your pages to be crooked. If your spine is slightly glued in, you know, slightly crooked, then all your pages will be crooked. So there. So then all we need to do now is wait for that to dry really, really good. And that Fabri-Tac dries really quickly, but I try hard not to mess with it for maybe like at least a half an hour or an hour. I let it dry for a while after I do this. Okay, so take your pages and then fold up, making sure that you can fold your book over, which is important because if your spine's not in place, then you won't be able to fold your book. And then I just get my clip and I do that, and I just let it dry, and that's how I let it sit for a while. Like I said, maybe a half an hour to an hour. So I'm gonna go ahead and let that sit, and I'll be right back. Okay, so now our book is done. So you want to come back in and make sure that you glue these fabric strips back down to the, so like we didn't glue that completely down, so make sure that you glue those in with your glue once your spine dries, and just make sure that lays over onto the part so that it doesn't lift up like whenever you're turning the page, you know what I mean? And another tip is make sure you use a fabric that the glue doesn't seep through. Like that other fabric was a little bit thin, so it probably wasn't a good choice to put on the outside there. So this one is just fine. So yeah, so that is our journal. And now you have all your pages, everything's bound in. I love how you can see the fabric in between the signatures. I think that's so pretty. So yeah, so that's it, guys. We did it. And I hope that you guys liked this tutorial. And if you give it a try, let me know, because I love being able to use the old books and being able to make them, you know, bigger, and you can kind of just customize it to however you like. So I'm excited to be able to use this journal. So I wish you guys all a wonderful day, and I will see you next time. Bye.